All right, how's everybody doing? Welcome to a second episode of Here's the Thing at the End of the Day with Ricky and myself, Hank from Two Birds and a Third Football Podcast. What are we going to be discussing today? What topics?
So we're gonna start off with the Danny Trevathan suspension and player safety. Then we're gonna transition, also keep it on the NFL players, talk about unity, and also just talk about like basically why stats are in essence pointless to an extent. So yeah.
So let's talk about the Danny Trevathan hit the Bears against the Packers game on Thursday. Their color rush division matchup.
Yeah, so I guess I'll pretty much give a synopsis of what occurred. So I have Davante Adams on my fantasy team, but this is much more important than that. But like basically what happened was that he catches a touchdown, they get it called back. So it's now I think it was like second or third and goal.
No, it was third. It was third and goal.
All right. But anyhow, so basically Davante Adams catches a pass. Yes, in essence gets stopped, but then Danny Trevathan comes in and just does a vicious hit to his face.
He lit him up, is what he did.
But
like a match.
But so basically, Davante Adams got hit very viciously. It looked like he was unconscious. It looked like it could have been very bad. Luckily, MRI tests and whatnot said that he did get a concussion, but it was not as bad as people at first anticipated. So the league today announced that Danny Trevathan was going to be suspended 2 games for violation of NFL player safety rules. It says here, hold up. So he's being suspended without pay for 2 games and basically in violation of what I just said during that Thursday night game. They've issued the violation basically to the rule that states that there will be no unnecessary roughness, blah, 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 blah. Basically just hitting a, no.
I don't think it was as much of like hitting, because it wasn't hitting a defenseless receiver. I guess when I first saw it, I didn't think it was like we all saw his mouthpiece and his chin guard fly off, but I didn't think it was a helmet-to-helmet hit. But what people don't understand is you are not to hit anybody with the crown of your helmet.
Yeah.
Even if you're a running back, you're not allowed to hit anybody with the crown of your helmet. So that was obviously the violation. That was obviously the main violation that Danny Trevathan made. And I mean, that's not the biggest mistake Danny Trevathan ever made.
Yes.
Primetime game. We all remember the week 1 of 2013 against Baltimore. He pulled a Deshaun Jackson and he intercepted Joe Flacco and dropped the ball at the 1-yard line.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I want to bring up this.
I think that this was too harsh of a penalty. I think that I don't know what Danny Trevathan's history is with personal fouls and breaking the rules and the like, but I would have given a 1-game suspension, not a 2-game suspension. But I'd like to.
I don't know his entire history, but on Twitter, Davante Adams tweeted on his own personal account that he's at home feeling all right, and he appreciates everyone thinking about him, which is great. I mean, I would I was worried that it was much more worse than that. I mean, like someone can die from that.
Yeah,
and that's scary. Like I've seen high school players get killed because of football, and it is a violent sport. Now, I'm not here to say that many people have this and there's an extent, like people might be like, oh, the sport is full of sensitive players and I can't, just suck it up. It's like, well, last time I checked, you're not the one playing the sport. Last time I checked, you're not putting your body on the line. So I haven't. Yeah.
I hate to like stand up and get political here, but it's the exact same way that people. It's the exact same way that some people treated that Adrian Peterson thing, where he was whipping his son with a switch and everything.
Yeah.
And all the people over the age of 40 were like, "Well, I got beat with a switch too." And here's the thing. I mean, as time goes by, people.
Oh no, EDP's lotions come. He's gone through rehab, and now and now he's come out as dead.
So he had to change EDP's lotion had to change his job. But
Yeah.
a lot of people say that, I got beat when I was a kid and look how I turned out. Well, unfortunately actual psychologists have found that that is abuse.
Oh
So
yeah.
as time goes by, you're going to see the pussification of the next generation. So
Well,
that's something that we have to live with. And now that we know that football players can get injured via concussions and that's out, then it's common knowledge in that sense. Hold on.
you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so when it comes to the whole like, oh, well, the league's becoming too soft. I'll be honest, like, there's a difference between being soft and being safe. What happened with Devontae Adams was extremely horrible and should not be taken lightly. I understand that sometimes when it comes to tackling, like, there are some ways where it's like, okay, maybe that's a bit ridiculous, but like, I just think when it comes to I think player safety comes first and foremost, especially since the equipment is not yet. I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to give an excuse or whatever, because obviously there shouldn't be excuses when it comes to player safety. But when it comes to this equipment, I hope that eventually we can come up with better equipment for the players so that we don't have to worry about concussions and these horrible injuries.
Here's the thing. Football is my favorite sport, but if we have to put flags on them in order to keep them safe, then so be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Because, yeah.
So
that's their lives, and
yes,
their lives are more important than the sport.
Yeah. So former EDP Lotionaire asks, how do you think the NFC East race is turning out so far? Considering that I'm a Cowboys fan and you're an Eagles fan, I honestly am liking how it's going so far.
I'm liking it because it's competitive. Even the worst team in our division, who's 0-3, is still putting up competitive games against one team that is currently 2-1, another team that's 2-1, and the final team that's 2-1. They've lost to all three 2-1 teams in what I believe have been one. Well, not the first game, but
the other two were
third game were one possession games, low scoring one possession games, or not low scoring, but the first game was pretty low scoring for them. But I've liked how it's turned out. It's turned out not quite the way I expected for the Eagles, but how I expected for the Cowboys. Not record wise how I've expected for the Giants at least to win the division. But the Redskins, what I expected, really. A team that on paper doesn't look like they're going to be that good. They've got underrated positions on their team, and they went out and they beat the Oakland Raiders at home.
Yeah, but I mean, and I always tell my friends this, is that when it comes to football or any sport, I'd rather win let's stick it with football. I would rather win my division through a competitive race than win it outright, because then you have bragging rights, and as well as it makes you feel better. Like, I'm trying to think, like, when it comes to the Redskins, right? When they won the division in 2015, excuse me, they go 9-7, right? Realistically, like, had they lost their last, like, theoretically they could have won the division at 8-8. But anywho,
yeah.
That, like, what is there to brag about? You literally win a division outright because all the other teams suck, or you're a team like the Patriots, where you win your division constantly because all the other teams suck. It's like,
well, at the same time, if you look at the 2007 New York Giants, or no, the 2011 New York Giants, you had two teams that went 8-8 and one team that went 6-10. And of course the Giants went 9-7.
That's different. I think that's a
Of
different
course, you
situation.
have bragging rights because you won the division, but you also have bragging rights because you won the Super Bowl. And
Yeah,
if you remember, the Giants didn't even beat the Redskins that year.
yeah. I'm not. Yeah, I think it also depends on the situation as well, Hank. Like obviously, like 2015 is one of those situations where like the Cowboys were injured and they just were lost. The Eagles were Chip Kelly.
Yeah,
Yeah. And the Giants were the Giants.
we were handicapped by our head coach.
Yeah. You're on that special ed bus now. I'm playing.
But the way I see it unfolding is, of course, the Cowboys have the most to prove because they have the tougher schedule. They have to go into Atlanta. They have to play against Green Bay, which, they have to avenge the loss of Green Bay from last year's playoff.
Yeah.
And they still have they go to Kansas City, right?
Who?
The Cowboys, right?
No, the Kansas City comes to our place.
It comes to you guys. Okay. You guys go to Oakland, though.
Yeah, we go to Oakland, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, it's a rougher schedule. You guys have to play Atlanta. You guys Seattle, you guys play at home, right?
Yeah. But I'm not sure. I remember I'm not sure if it was you or Josh, but one of you said that's how the NFC East is one of those divisions where you had the stockpile wins early.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, right, then basically, well, sometimes that might not even matter, but like 2014, like both teams were 9-3, and
And at the end, the Eagles
barely missed out.
The Eagles beat the Cowboys, made the Cowboys 9-4. Oh no!
Wait, no. Wait, I remember. We were both 9-4, and basically, when the Cowboys beat the Eagles at Philly, they went to 10-4. The Eagles went to 9-5 or 9-5, and then they still had a chance to make the playoffs as long as they won their last two games. Yeah. But anywho, so according to Ultimate Saints fan, how you doing? TMZ reports Carson Wentz is dating Danny Isn't she a porn star? Right? Danny Daniels.
What's up?
Our Ultimate Saints fan is saying that TMZ is reporting Carson Wentz is dating Danny Daniels.
Nice.
Yeah, good for him. And fantasy advice: Chris Carson or Christian McCaffrey. I'll probably say Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Because Christian McCaffrey can be used in the passing game and the running game.
So what are we going to talk about next?
We were going to talk about player unity and basically when it comes to team. Like, for example, you mentioned the Steelers before we went on the air.
Yeah, so what the Steelers were going to do were they were going to sit in a locker room during the national anthem, which, whether you agree with that or not, that's not what we're talking.
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
But Villanueva, who is a former Army Ranger.
Yes, he's a former Ranger.
Something like that. He stood outside the entrance and he stood during the national anthem, and apparently this didn't go over so well with Mike Tomlin, the head coach, who last week it had so much to do with team unity because you had players kneeling, you had players standing, you had players sitting in the locker room. LaShawn McCoy was looking like a jackwagon stretching during the national anthem. But, it had a lot to do with that because the players were being attacked by the president. Now, in a situation, I didn't play sports that much. I think the last team sport I played was like I think freshman year of high school, but like I mean, we didn't really. It wasn't really a case where we sang the national anthem at those games. Like we
Yeah,
just
really. We just kind of played.
like I know that in like I guess high school baseball they have like the baseball, what's it called, the baseball motto, I trust in God, I love my country, and I respect its laws.
And it's gay. No, sorry.
They win or lose, I will always do my best. Like something like that. But like we all did that. Like we all did everything together. We all were, I mean, we weren't best friends, but you know, we definitely we definitely were there for each other in situations. But I don't. I mean, seeing as though the Steelers lost to the Bears and the Raiders lost to the Redskins, and those were the two biggest cases of kneelings and no-shows to that whole national anthem thing, and those two teams outright got upsetted on the road. Do you think, I mean, especially in a situation where Derek Carr was standing and most of the Raiders were kneeling or sitting, do you think that that had anything to do with their loss? Because they weren't.
Yeah, it probably did, because normally when something happened, like, and I think this happened, like, normally when an event happens that impacts a community or everyone collectively, there's a mindset that changes for some of those teams. Some teams they play with emotion and they end up either disappointing or they end up winning.
Mhm.
And basically, I'm trying to think of a good situation. Like after not. No, I'm not trying to correlate these two by any means. I think it could be just a coincidence. After 9/11, right? After 9/11, the Patriots go and win their first Super Bowl, I believe.
Mhm.
So there have been times where some events have happened and stuff just happens because, yeah. But
Yeah.
you know, and same with the Saints. Like, you know, after they came back from they came back home after Katrina, like they played very well in, I think, the home opener. So I mean,
Yeah.
like, there are things that happen,
Yeah.
and you know, and regardless of the whole anthem protest, like, player unity doesn't have to necessarily be about that whole issue. Like, another, like, the Seahawks, for example, they're like, you know, when it comes to player unity and the idea of a team bonding, like, that's the issue. Like, when you have an event of what occurred in Super Bowl 49, right? Then that locker room in essence is pretty much not the same as it used to be. Yeah, sure, Marshawn Lynch retired, but that was like, even after in the 2015 season, the Seahawks still did it. What they went, like, what did they do? 10-6 or 11-5?
10-6. They were second in place in the division, and they They won that Vikings playoff game.
Which they really should have lost, but
Missed the game-winning field goal. It was like a 33-yard field goal or something like that.
yeah. So I mean, like, so when a locker room changes, sometimes that team loses their mantra. So, like, and what makes them good, like, and obviously there have been, you know, I'm trying to think,
But
like,
I still think the Seattle Seahawks have a strong locker room. They're one of the most liberal locker rooms in the NFL right now.
yeah, I
know?
wasn't referring to politics per se. I was just referring to, you know, just like the players and coaches kind of being on the same page and whatnot.
Yeah.
But uh, let's see what else. Oh yeah,
That's what EDP would do.
um, well, okay, so I like how the title of the video is emerging of two famous football phrases. Yeah, exactly. The but we should talk. I want to talk about the what you posted on Twitter but and I think it's kind of an interesting thing. Stats
Okay.
are pretty much meaningless, especially when
Yeah.
it comes to certain championships and whatnot.
They're meaningless. They're completely meaningless to me because like everyone wants to talk about, and again, because I'm like a message board hog or whatever.
Keyboard warrior.
But I remember when when everyone was talking about how LaShawn McCoy, like back with like 2013, 2014, when it was LaShawn McCoy's glory years where he was consistently getting he I think one year he won the rushing title, and then the next year he was like the third best rusher, and
I believe that was 2013, and then
best running back in the NFL, and people were openly getting upset that people weren't saying that, oh, they're, because I would come out and say, no, he's not the best running back in the NFL. Adrian Peterson is better than him. Jamal Charles is better than him. And I would say that at that point in time, LaShawn McCoy was probably the third best running back. But people show up, they'd be like, look at his stats. Look at this. Look at that. But the thing that people need to understand is that there are statistics that I mean, not statistics, but there are things that aren't noticed
and don't translate into,
like, for instance, if a quarterback throws an interception and the ball gets tipped at the line of scrimmage and it's intercepted by a defensive lineman, well, that's really not the quarterback's fault. If the perfect pass to a wide receiver and it hits the receiver right in the hand and the receiver pops it up in the air and it gets intercepted.
Hey, now that you mention it, this is especially apparent. Like, running backs, that's all, and that's another thing. When it comes to quarterbacks, this is very apparent. Like, for example, Matt Ryan has arguably one of the best seasons. It's the best season of his career, but arguably, is a part of one of the better offenses of NFL history, right? But then you have Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, who I would argue are better than him.
Yeah.
And just because and then some people might point and be like, well, but look at his stats. Like, he did phenomenal that year. Yeah, I understand that. But the problem is that he doesn't have that same impact or mythos that Aaron Rodgers had.
Yeah.
Or Tom Brady had. Now, I'm not trying to underrate what Matt Ryan did because it was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Still.
I've always been someone who has said that Matt Ryan is a lot better than the way his team plays or what record the finishing record for his team. But I mean, I guess the most recent thing that people have been saying is that Zach Ertz someone said that Zach Ertz was a top 5 tight end because of his because he could set records when it comes to yards per game or yards per. Because right now, I think he currently leads tight ends with like almost 300 receiving yards in 3 games, and his first 2 games were very impressive. But I said no. I would rather have a guy like Jason Witten, like have a guy who has the leadership factor of Jason Witten, or a guy who has a better skill set like Travis Kelce, than have a guy like Zach Ertz, which I'll say Zach Ertz is a very talented player, but the thing is, he doesn't produce the way a 6'5", 250-pound tight end would. I mean, he does put together 3 to 4 touchdowns a season, but a guy like Zach Ertz, you're thinking, this guy is 6'5", he should be a great red zone threat. And the downside is the fact that he doesn't play like that. He plays about 3 to 4 inches shorter than he actually is.
Yeah, so
quarterbacks who have to force the ball to him in order for him to be successful.
Yeah, like, here's a good example. Like, and then Ultimate Saints fan asks, well, how do you go by who's better than? Well, it's not. Well, it's a variety of factors. Especially, it also depends on the position. Like, when it comes to the quarterback position, like, you got to look at, like, if you're comparing 2016 Matt Ryan to, I don't know,
2007 Tom Brady.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll just do that. Basically, you had to look at, you know, the pieces that were around him. You know, basically, there are so many factors that can go into determining, well, who do you think, you know? Well, I could argue that Aaron Rodgers was the best quarterback in 2016 because, considering what he did to that Packers team. I
Yeah.
mean, tight ends, tight ends are,
Tight ends
they're
are,
kind.
tight ends are usually tall, but when I think of an elite tight end, I think of Jason Witten. I think of a Tony Gonzalez. I think of an Antonio Gates in his prime. And the thing is, Zach Ertz was drafted in the second round, but he can't block, and B, he's not the threat in the red zone that you would expect a 6'5" tight end to be.
So it's subjective for the most.
It,
Yeah, and for
it is subjective, but people are
yeah.
saying that Zach Ertz is going to be a Hall of Famer, but Zach Ertz is not that. He's
And
not.
some,
He's not Tony Gonzalez. He's not Gronkowski. He's not a Travis Kelce yet.
I will say that, but like sometimes the stats also could be, sometimes like when like a stat comes out, sometimes that doesn't necessarily reflect the player in any way. Like sometimes an opinion of a player.
I mean, you can look at that Kansas City Chiefs game where Carson Wentz throws a prayer and it gets tipped, and then Zach Ertz basically like a pass that should have been intercepted, but it was caught by Zach Ertz and he ran
Mm-hmm.
10 yard. It was like a 50-yard play. That wasn't like he was just at the right place at the right time. But the thing is, I would rather have wins. I'd rather have wins and team production than have a team where the quarterback throws for 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I
Yeah,
mean, when that happens, you're going to be successful, but then you turn out with a team like the 2007 Giants where Eli Manning has about 4,000 passing yards. He's got 20 touchdowns and 20 interceptions.
I think that year was probably the biggest. Well, that year when they went undefeated was probably the biggest. The biggest example of why stats don't matter. I mean, you had one of the best, arguably one of the best teams of that season in, well, the Patriots, and then as well as the Cowboys and Packers, who both went. Well, let me refer to the Cowboys and Packers because we all know what the Patriots did. Cowboys 13-3. They literally could have gone. They arguably could have gone 15-1 if they actually cared, but they kind of
Yeah.
sputtered at the end. But
Had they not lost to the Eagles in that 10-6 game, or had they not benched Roma? Because it seemed like in that last game of the season they had already checked out.
yeah, and then the whole whatever. But the point is then you had that. Then you had a Packers team that went 13-3 as well. Who they were no slouch either. I mean, them and Dallas went back and forth on that Monday night game. And it was not like by any means a give me game either.
Uh-huh.
But so getting to what I'm supposed to say, both of them really good teams. Stats say that like they were like arguably, like I mean that Cowboys team had like almost like 10 Pro Bowlers, and guess what? They get defeated by the Giants, you know, and that like the Giants waltz into Dallas and into Texas Stadium and beat Dallas. And then next thing you know, they go to Lambeau Field. Everyone's expecting the Packers to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They end up losing, and then the whole Patriots fiasco. So that's probably the biggest year in which stats relatively did not matter.
And here's the thing. When it comes to, there we go. At the end of the day,
Yeah,
like a lot of people, especially a lot of Eagles fans, talk about yards per carry, and especially, the number of times running. And I've really gone back and forth on this, but if you run the ball 25 times in a game, A, you're probably going to win the game, and B, you're really going to take the pressure off the quarterback on play action passes. And the thing is that, a lot of people idealize like, oh, you get yards per carry, but yards per carry don't matter as much as, you know, the quality of carries.
Yeah, like I'll be honest, when it comes to carries, obviously, when you're carrying the ball and you're not getting crap, obviously it's probably going to mean something. But overall, if you like when I look at a running back, right? Just tell me how many yards, like relatively, like if it's like 20 yards, right? And you tell me they get about 50 yards. Obviously, sometimes I don't really care about the yards per carry. I kind of just like, it's kind of like the eye test. It's like, obviously, if you put, I don't know, if you have like 29 carries for 150 yards or whatever, obviously you had a fantastic day. So, I mean, you
Speaking
can't.
Speaking of fantastic days, Stanford running back Bryce Love breaks 1,000 rushing yards in his 5th game of the season.
That's insane.
That's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, oh my God.
I know, but another thing, time of possession. Time of possession is another thing that goes back and forth where you could have time. I mean, I think that most times if a team has a better time of possession, they're probably going to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side of, like, if you flip the coin, and the other side of the coin is the fact that, well, you look at last week's game between the Eagles and the Giants, and for a long time, I mean, the Eagles had the time of possession locked down, but they were losing by 7 points.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that's another thing. And, I always criticize Pro Football Focus, which I don't know. I have no idea how Pro Football Focus grades Jason Kelce as being the best center in the league when he is by far the greatest anchor on his offensive line. Jason Kelce is a guy who plays well when it comes to moving guys into space. If you need a screen pass and you move him in front and you have him run, because he's a quick dude. He's a nimble guy. But if you have a 330-pound nose tackle running straight at him, he's useless. Absolutely useless. He's going to get knocked into the next universe.
There was another thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh my God, it just escaped my mind. Like I was like, oh, now I know what we want to talk about, and then it was just like, nope.
Isn't quality of carries reflected on yards per carry? I mean, sometimes you run the ball 10 times and you get 20 yards. But you got to keep doing it so that the play action pass can get set up and teams start respecting your running game enough to come off, to play off and not put 8 guys in the box. And that happens when your receivers are respected too. Do you remember?
Yeah. I was like, I wanted to bring up something, and we didn't get a chance to discuss it, I believe, earlier. It had to deal with NFL fans. Now, more specifically, we're talking about, and you're gonna see where I'm going with this. So, in the Super Bowl 51, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had there was like, I think, this article or video that came out talking about how Patriots fans left the stadium before the Super Bowl was over. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I remember.
Here is my
one of those people.
What's up?
Marky Mark.
Oh yeah.
Mark.
Yeah. So, because I need because this is a real pet peeve of mine. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Mr. Marky Mark, and if you do remember, he was the guy that was talking all that crap about how the Patriots came back at the induction game or whatever.
Induction ceremony.
Yeah. Well, like the first game of the season.
Yeah.
This is my problem with that. If you, as a fan, and if you know me, and as well as you probably, like, this is me. I never leave, and I've only been to, I'm trying to think. Unfortunately, I've never been to Dallas, but when it comes to a game, I watch that game for however long. Like, I could give a crap less if we're losing by 42 or if we're winning by 42. Especially that Broncos game is a perfect example. I watched every minute of that game. And I'm telling you, like, I've never for once, ever in my life would ever walk out on my team.
Mhm.
And I'm getting back to the main point of the Patriots. You as a fan, right? You walked out, right? And you were admitting defeat. Your team comes back. You're not there to witness it, and then all of a sudden you want to claim that, oh, our team's the best of all time. And no. If you as a fan quit on your team, and they come back and they end up winning something, right? You have no right as a fan to claim that for yourself.
Yeah.
That is the biggest pet peeve I've ever had when it comes to this. Because when you as a football fan give up on your team, or any fan, like I'm still going strong as a Phillies fan. I'm still going strong as a Warriors fan, even through all that other stuff. And
all that other stuff that I don't remember.
shut up. I'm trying to stay on track and get to the point. And the whole Cowboys with the whole 8-8 seasons.
Uh-huh.
The point is that you as a fan, and I think that there's another example. Remember in the 2014 NFC Championship game when the Seahawks fans were walking out and they ended up coming back and winning, and all of a sudden all the Seahawks fans were like, "Oh, we won!" Yeah, it's like, no. If you as a fan quit on your team, you have no right to receive the award, or you to basically brag about whatever your team did, because
yeah.
I just feel like that's a load of crap if you think that you have, like, and especially when it comes to the Patriots thing, because I know people walked out on that.
Also,
I mean,
you also have to understand the fact that, I mean, before Tom Brady and before Bill Belichick, that stadium, it wasn't Gillette Stadium, it was Foxborough Stadium. Was
I
it was like the Superdome before they got good,
Yeah, like, and it's just
that's annoying, but there's nothing you can really do about it.
I know there's nothing I can do about it. That's just my personal opinion.
There are so many things that I could have done if I had left or I had not watched a football. Like, so many opportunities that could have come my way if I had not watched a football game. And and here's the thing, I don't regret it. But there have been a lot of people who've been like, "Oh, dude, you could have like gone out with us and drank beers and
died."
That stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm a faithful fan of this team, and I might not always predict the Eagles to win, because it's not 2001 to 2013 or to 2004 anymore. But I think there's only been one time. I think I've only missed an Eagles game since I became a fan. I think it was 3 times, just because I wasn't, there wasn't a TV in front of me, or like I was on an airplane or something like that.
You're not a true fan.
But I've always tried to watch as much as I can. Besides one time, it was Thanksgiving, and my dad wanted to have us do pictures while it was still going on, because he just didn't care. So the Eagles were losing to the Lions by like a 40 burger, and I just was like, okay, I'll do that, because I have my own reasons. But
like don't take it and I'm pretty sure you're aware of this. I'm like, that's my personal opinion. Obviously, I can't tell people what to do. Yeah. So it's just, that's a pet peeve of mine. Like, and of course, again, I can't tell Mark Wahlberg what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his opinion. If he wants to do it, like, toot his own horn. My problem. Okay, here's a good example. I watched that whole Green Bay versus Dallas game, the playoff game, and when we almost with the comeback and everything, I just sat in front of the TV. Obviously, it's the playoffs, so obviously you're gonna watch it. I know some people that just turned off the TV because they thought it was over. I'm like me personally, I'm like, dude, don't even bother trying to celebrate. And I told him, I'm like, if we won, I would have been very upset.
Ricky,
because it was, yeah, what's up?
I'll just nod my headphone thing.
You good?
Yeah. The other end of the head. Do you want to see this?
Sure, why not?
Sorry about that. Look at this. It's kind of dark in here.
Wait, is that the one you're using?
No, I left it on my bed.
Oh my god. Holy crap.
This has just been chewed up to all end. Luckily, it's not the one I bring to the gym.
It's the. Well, it looks. That's why I have the wire. Oh God, could you imagine if you got the AirPods like I did and they did that? Oh, I would have killed them. Now, let's see. Ultimate Saints fan says, I put it like this: say your girlfriend is cheating on you. You mean to tell me you're going to stay because you love her? That's a completely okay. That's different. We're talking about a football team producing on a field. We're not talking about whether or not, you know, that kind of analogy wouldn't work in this scenario, in my opinion. But
yeah, I just feel like here. Let me turn this up. I just feel like I'm already somebody who is glutton for punishment, and I'm always gonna be somebody who's I'm always gonna come back to the Eagles like a beaten, like.
I'm not saying you can't get ticked off with your team because obviously
you should see how animated that I get during. I mean, last week, like when Doug Peterson went for it on 4th and 8, and I was like standing there like, you are the dumbest. Like there is nobody dumber than you. And when the Eagles stopped them on when they stopped the Giants on 4th down in their own territory, I was like, Doug Peterson's a genius.
He's a genius.
Like what was it? Like during the field goal, I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. We're gonna miss. Odell Beckham is gonna run the kick back for a touchdown. We're gonna lose, and we're gonna be yet again the laughing stock of the National Football League. And we make the field goal. I'm like, oh, he's a genius. He's a
genius. Well, I will say this. I think that probably the prime example of a fan doing this, and you probably know him in your fan base, Mr. EDP445. Now, he is the living embodiment of why I don't like of like what I just talked about. See, what's different? Your phone triggered me. What's different is like if you're gonna quit out on your team, at least you waited to see what actually happened. He quits immediately. Like didn't he quit? Like he did a video like we should fire Doug Peterson when you guys were leading at the half 7-0. Granted, he did do dumb crap, but it's like, so you're telling me you're leading 7-0, right? And you're you're so negative, and I think, and I know, like apparently his whole reasoning behind being negative is because then if I say that, then the opposite happens. It's like, well, whatever.
Yeah, he'll like the reverse psychology thing is.
Yeah, I kind of stopped ever thinking that.
Always something that I think about, but here's the thing. I remember, what was it? I can't stand fans who jinx a team. Like,
we're gonna win the Super Bowl.
We'll beat the Steelers to go 3-0, and he'll pull his pants down and shake his ass.
That's true. That's triggering.
And then he'll show everybody it. Nobody wants to see that. Like. See, Waffles is pissed about it. He didn't even want to see it either. But I had to show it. But anyway, like nobody wants to see that. But what happened afterwards? I mean, we won 4 out of our last whatever games. And he'll do a number on us by just jinxing us. And then when the Eagles lose, he'll just flip out.
I hate, yeah, it's just like, well, to be fair, the way he does his thing is, it's primarily used for entertainment. Yeah. I honest to God think there was a point in when he started blown up, and I think it was directly after that whole LaShawn McCoy got traded thing, that he just is doing what he's doing because it's an act. And you met him before.
That's not when it started, though.
I could really care less.
It started once after the Eagles lost to Arizona, and his room just went He just like threw stuff and
Oh, I forgot about that.
But the thing is, it doesn't really matter if a fan were to do that, if a fan were to partake in fair weathering or bandwagoning and this, that, and the third, but it's, to me, it's just none of my concern, really.
Yeah, I mean, I personally could care less. It's just, and it wasn't necessarily him as the main center of why I brought that up. It was more in regards to like Patriots fans, some other fans, and it's whatever. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it is whatever. Like I personally give a crap less.
It doesn't really matter to me, but at the same time, you'll always see fans online quit or leave or
keyboard warriors
not coming back because the flag, and they'll like be
oh, don't get me started on that. We're not gonna talk about that, but don't get me started on the whole well, I'm gonna burn my season tickets because some players want to exercise free speech.
Do I think Wendell Smallwood is the answer at running back? I don't know. I want to see how Corey Clement is. I want to see how he is, because I think that they should have drafted Clement over what we ended up getting in the 5th round, or the 4th round, the late 4th round in Dumfrey.
I don't appreciate that.
He's a pile of Dumfrey. But I actually am happy that the Eagles picked up Kenyon Barner, because I think that he's a decent return guy. He's a guy who can really play in the stead of Darren Sproles, and he can play punt returner and kick returner.
Uh-huh.
The most impressive part of his game. I mean, no one's ever going to make up for Darren Sproles, especially not Donnell Pumphrey. But, I'm not sure if Smallwood is the answer. I think that remains.
I think we gotta wait to see how that's. I don't know what the Eagles are trying to do at running back. I mean, you have like 3 different kinds of. Well, you have the ground and pound in LeGarrette Blount, and then you have the shifty back in Smallwood. And I'll be honest, I don't know what they're gonna do. And I was gonna bring this up. Thank you, Ultimate States fan. Do you think that you should draft Saquon Barkley, the GOAT?
I don't think so, because I think that I don't think that a player of his caliber will be I mean, here's the thing. If we end up getting like the 5th overall pick, then yeah. But I think that Barkley is going to go before that. And I don't think we're going to get the 5th pick. I would rather draft an offensive lineman to make the guys who we already have more successful.
No, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's like the only time, right? And I think that and this is a whole nother thing because I've heard this. So, and I talked to a couple of my buddies who happen to be Texan fans, and I said, what if you guys traded up in that one draft to select Jameis Winston? Okay, and let me explain. So if and if you followed the Texans' picks, they're pretty mediocre for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
If you followed them, and I told them, so tell me, would you give up 2 first rounds, possibly a 2 or second and a possible 4th to get him? And they're like, no, because we could have used those picks. But then I'm like, what?
You wouldn't be able to trade a 2nd and a possible 4th. It would be, well, the Texans were what, like the 19th or the 18th pick?
Yeah. So yeah.
But you wouldn't give that. You would give a 1st this year, a 1st next year, a 2nd this year, a 2nd next year.
That's the point I was trying to make. Like basically, like, but my point.
Looking at that, and you have to look at teams like the Atlanta Falcons who did that. Teams like the Washington Redskins that did that. And those teams, for about 2 or 3 years, they don't play very well. They play like crap because they just lost that draft capital.
Yeah. And before we go, I actually wanted to talk about the state of our Philadelphia Phillies. They actually have won, I believe, 2 in a row now. I could be wrong.
Yay!
Because yay! And well, good news is we're not gonna at least have more than 100 wins this season. No, but in all seriousness though, I'm actually so far I've been paying attention to some of the games just to see how the Phillies are mixing and matching players, and I'll be honest, I'm very excited for the future. I mean,
I'm relatively. I just want to see what we have. I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, what the Phillies started out 1-0.
they started out 500 and then they just collapse.
That's usually what happens to the Phillies. They just tank. It's like
yeah, I mean,
like the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills every year.
Well, at least we have a future.
Yeah, right.
Future. No, but so yeah, I'm just so excited. I just think if we can get a solid pitcher, I think we could be fine. But I swear to God, if we take another outfielder in the MLB draft, I'm gonna get mad.
Yeah.
Like as for our first pick, because we're gonna have like a high pick. I'm not sure if we'll have the first pick, but let's see. Start of the week in fantasy instead of the week.
I'll tell you. Start of the weekend. Well, I was gonna say Stefon Diggs. Start Stefon Diggs because I'm gonna start Stefon Diggs for the first week this season.
Give me 1 second. I actually gotta check. I gotta check who I'm starting.
Either Stefon Diggs or Adam Thielen.
Thanks for telling me to start Cooks last week over Parker. Yeah, dude. I drafted. Yeah. I would say start Jared Cook. I think that he's gonna have a good game.
Yeah.
Considering the how that game probably will go, I'm gonna assume Jared Cook. And I would sit. If you have him, please, I would sit Martavius Bryant or Matthew Stafford.
Mm-hmm. Also, this week I want to thank the Chicago Bears for their bad clock management, which allowed Howard to get a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Thank you very much. For my fantasy team, I got 13 points.
You told me to start Tampa's defense, shaking my head. Man, I had Baltimore's defense. I don't want to hear it.
I also want to thank Mel Kiper Jr. for continuing to put Sam Darnold as being the most NFL-ready quarterback.
He's gonna bust. He's gonna bust.
I'm gonna tell you something. They were talking about in the game how he apparently told his roommate on the football team that he was losing confidence. If your quarterback comes out and they say, I'm losing confidence, you ought to be slapped as a head coach.
Ripperoni and pepperoni. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Matt Barkley Jr. I'll say McSorley and McSorley is a better quarterback. Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback. The kid from Washington is a better quarterback. I mean, the guy has like 10 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and you're like, that's the Heisman Trophy winner. Not happening. But this was a good little
And hey, at least Carson Palmer actually did it. He's probably the most successful USC quarterback of my life. Nah.
Yeah. Well, wasn't Tommy Maddox a USC quarterback? But like Tommy Maddox only had one good season with this.
No. But okay. So I'm hoping we can continue to make this weekly. I really enjoy doing this.
Yeah, I do too.
So yeah. So hopefully we could probably do these. What?
I hope my dog doesn't chew up my headphones again.
Yeah, and no one dies. So yeah, so hopefully we'll catch you guys after week 4, week 4 of NFL action, and we'll be back to see how teams did. So, yeah.
Have a good day, guys.
Yeah, have a good day. Yep.